Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Flyera, Gonna Flyera. This is episode 11. And joining with me today is a guest of ours, Mr. Philabuter 10. How are you doing today, my friend? I'm going by his Twitter name, to be
Oh,
fair.
actually, I'm doing very good today. Thanks, Alex, man.
Hey, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. His real name is Eric, by the way, but we're going to call him Filibuster because we like that name
I like
better.
it too. It works for me.
So we are having a little bit of technical issues with Jamey today. He may or may not be joining in. If he does, we'll bring him on and we'll have him jump in mid-episode. But we got another good installment for you guys today. Today we're going to be going over a few different things. Training camp started. Was everyone going through what we call the Tortzure camp? And it has been a absolute showing in Voorhees, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
I saw a picture today, and the fans are absolutely packed in. It's awesome to see. It
it
looks
was
like,
full.
Flyers hockey is being revived in the city of Philadelphia. And I think a certain prospect named Matvey Michkov may have a little bit to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're going to get right into it, folks. We're going to start off by talking about what has stood out to us with training camp so far. So, Filibuster, aka Eric, but I'm going to call you Filibuster.
No problem.
Start with you. Tell me what has stood out for you thus far.
Well, one thing that really stood out to me, and I think is very important, is health. Like we're healthy. We're coming into camp and with no injuries, no setbacks, no like there is one player missing, but like whatever. That's not the point right now. But so far so good. Tuamala, the only one that is a little banged up still from the rookie games. So, but no, honestly, that's what impresses me, and that's what we need because health, I think, is one of the most important things to get through a season, right? Because if you don't have the health, you don't have the depth, you can't. It's just going to be another awful season, and hopefully, like if they could stay healthy this year, that'd be great.
Yeah, the health is definitely a big thing when it comes to this team right now. That was something. Durability was definitely a massive issue for them last year. Um, But how about play? Who has stood out for you in pace of play? Anyone really opening eyes? Maybe teams. I mean, has anyone maybe added some weight that may have stood out to you? Anyone's skill?
Well, I didn't wait like obviously like I think Cam York. We heard that he's like about
Yeah,
what 195
he's up to
now.
about almost. Towards I think emphasized he's trying to get him to about or close to 205. I don't know if he's exactly at that yet. But
Yeah.
that's definitely a standout to me. But yeah, who else has stood out to you in maybe a skill perspective?
Well, you know what? Like actually, Oli Excel. Oli Excel actually is like I honestly I liked his game last year. Like he wasn't great, but he was solid. He made some plays. He got where he had to be, and honestly, like I think this is gonna be a big camp for him. And from what I've been able to see and what I've been able to read, it looks like so far he's having an impressive camp, which is great. Uh, Chemistry building. That's one thing that I'm really looking forward to see in the preseason and in camp is who's going to start having chemistry with who, right? Because you're looking like they paired Frost with Michkov now. So
Mm-hmm.
I think ideally he's the best center to play with
Oh,
Michkov.
100% agree.
Let's go like offense. Let's go. So and I'm happy to hear that they're clicking. They're clicking at camp. That's what I've been reading. That's what I've been seeing on like some of these clips that I've been watching, and that's really impressing me and like really giving me a good sign, you know. And Tuamala, sorry, not excuse me, not Tuamala, but Zamula Risto.
Mhm.
Like that's probably like most likely that's going to be the third pair to start the season.
Yeah.
And just the fact that I was reading a piece where like quotes it was Zamula's talking about playing with Risto and how it's becoming more and more comfortable, more and more like they're getting chemistry together. That's great if we could because you need to roll three pairs. We
Mhm.
need to roll three pairs this season. Any NHL team really should have three pairs that you could put out there. And any situation you want to put these guys out there, you have to be comfortable with them. So that's making me happy to hear. You know.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what your thoughts of. I agree, definitely. This team, for once, actually seems like they're healthy. Ristolainen dealt with one name. Obviously, is Ristolainen that comes to mind. He had the ruptured tricep at the end of the year. I think he mentioned he had 2 surgeries, which is interesting to me.
Mm.
The guy was that dinged up, but he dealt with some the bicep rupture, as well as I think he had another undisclosed injury. But not only that, they also it's good to see Drysdale seem like he's back to 100%. He obviously had the sports hernia surgery. That kind of hampered him a little bit. He had the shoulder injury back in, I think it was February, when he took that massive hit against the Penguins.
Yeah, got blown up.
The first thing that came to mind with me is the labrum injury that he suffered out in Anaheim. And I got terrified, thinking, are we just going to bring in a guy who's going to be dealing with constant injuries throughout his career? But I'm glad to see at least he's someone that seems like he's, healthy, ready to go. I'm excited definitely to see him make a potential step forward. He's going to be a massive part of this team's power play. So the one thing the Flyers power play has been missing for so damn long is a consistent quarterback, a guy who can pretty much move the puck around with no issues. They haven't had that since Gostisbehere. And when Vogel left, they had multiple guys who tried with Provorov. They tried a little bit with Sanheim. I think they had a few other handful of names in there. They even
may have tried Ristel at one point.
D'Angelo. And it never seemed like anyone could really mesh. Jamey Drysdale seems like the perfect guy that could really light a fire when it comes to just maneuvering the puck around, finding the open guy, looking for the open shot, finding either maybe a guy like Tippett, Konechny, Michkov on the bumper to blast a one-timer right over the goalie's shoulder. Something like that definitely stands out. So Jamey Drysdale's health is going to be pivotal. He's going to need to take a step up this season. And another guy that I've seen a few people comment on social media is Bobby Brink. He looks noticeably faster. He's been skating straight. He looks stronger. He looks quicker. He looks like he's picking up. His acceleration has been better. He looks like a guy that really knows how to find another gear in his skating, which is something I feel like he never really had before. One guy I follow on Twitter named Frank, he brings up that he thinks Bobby Brink is just another guy, and he may just be that. But this is a big year for him. He's got to find a way to crack at least into this middle six to be a consistent third-line right winger. Because we know Konechny and Michkov are likely going to have the top 6 right winger slots. This team's got an abundance of talent at right wing. So that shouldn't be an issue for this team. But if you can get a guy in that third line in your checking line like Bobby Brink, who can play consistent minutes for you, that can play maybe 14, 15 minutes a night, that can provide maybe 15, 20 goals in that third line as a right winger and your bottom 6, that's big. Because your left wing slot, you got 3 guys that should be consistently down the left wing that you can count on. In Forster, Tippett, and Farabee. Who's going to be running where? That remains to be seen.
Interchangeable.
Exactly. We'll see what happens with that. Me personally, I want to see Forster paired with Michkov and Frost. I think that would be cool to have a guy like Forster who really brings out a good two-way game, because his two-way game was great last year.
Oh yeah, Salky Bulls.
Well, he was one of my bold predictions for the year. Not to get a little too off track, because this is about what comes to training camp, but just to mention one thing. One of my big bold predictions this year is I think Tyson Forster gets some Selke votes. And I think he's going to be – his two-way game's going to take another step this year. But anyway, Bobby Brink was a guy who stood out to me quite a bit. And then obviously Matvei Michkov. We wanted to see how he was going to play with the big guns, how he was going to be – I mean, he dazzled in the rookie game. He scored a goal in that first game against the Rangers, which was awesome to see. He didn't play in the second, but that was obviously expected. But, he looks like he belongs. His skating is excellent. His IQ is off the charts. I've seen people compare him to a supercomputer, and you can see it out there. His skating is great. His puck, his dangling is phenomenal. His puck handling is excellent. His skating, that'll come in time. He's young. I think he's going to end up – his skating will get better as he gets older and gets accustomed to the NHL game. But Michkov already looks like he belongs. I think he's going to make an immediate impact here. And, the fans came in droves to see this guy and what he can provide. And it's exciting. And he already looks like someone that's going to be pretty much inserted right into that top 6 right from day one. I made a prediction that this guy is going to be putting up close to 60 points this year. I think it's a realistic possibility. I have him at 21 goals, 36 assists. We'll see if that comes to fruition.
Yeah.
But I think that's a fair number for him. He might score more goals. Who the hell knows? This could be a guy who becomes an instant 30-goal scorer right off the bat. So, we'll see with him. But he definitely looks like that. He is meshing well. And then obviously Luchenko. Luchenko, me and you talked about it before we went on air, how he felt about that pick. He looks like someone who is just going to be worth pick number 13. He's so fast. He moves great laterally side to side.
Beautiful skater. Beautiful.
Oh, his skating is way above what I thought it would be coming into camp. So he is someone that I looked at, and I wanted to see how he'd play against the boys. I looked at him originally as a 2 to 3 year project. I could see him now bringing that down here to be maybe a 1 to 2 year project. He could be someone by his age 20 year that could be fitting right in this lineup as a middle 6 center and maybe eventually even a top 6 center. And who knows, if everything goes right, maybe you got your 1C. I'd like to see him as a high 2C maybe, but that remains to be seen. But those are the guys that really stood out to me. You brought up the durability. That's huge. But there was obviously the guys who came out and exceeded expectations, who look like they're ready to go right off the bat. And Brink, Michkov, and Luchenko were guys that really caught my eye.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about Brink a little bit more because, like you said, we have an abundance of wingers. I think, out of the 6 spots on wing, 5 are locks. 5 are locks. Brink is the only one I could see possibly that really has to fight for his spot. Because, like I said before, with Lixell, in Tuamala, if he gets healthy and he comes back and he competes, that spot is the only one I can see available. Mm-hmm. And so that's why he needs to step up. Brink needs to, he was good last year, but normal. Look, it was his rookie year. He came from college, didn't play that much hockey. So I can understand how an 82-game schedule might be a little bit too much for him at times, So maybe hit that wall, but this is where he needs to step up because his spot, I don't think, is guaranteed. No. And look, Torts wasn't scared to bench him last year. He wasn't scared to scratch him. They sent him back down. So I think there's a chance, if Lixell, like I said, Lixell, he had a goal the other day in the scrimmage game. If Tuamala comes in and he starts, because I find Tuamala's game might, Torts might prefer it a little more because he is a little grind. He's faster. He grinds a little more. Mm-hmm. So he's a little different than Brink. So if Torts wants to make that third line a bit more of a grinding line, Tuamala might fit that a little bit better.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think Brink is one that I'm really curious to see how he continues, how he's going to play in the preseason, what he's going to do. And also, like you say about Drysdale, I think Coots. This is going to be a big year for Coots.
Oh, for sure.
He has to come back healthy. He has to be 100%.
We mentioned, not to interrupt you real quick, but I want to add one last thing to that. We mentioned the sports hernia with Drysdale. Couturier was another guy who dealt with it. He's now, thankfully, it looks like it has nothing to do with the multiple back surgeries he has. No. And he was horrific in the second half of the year. And I think the sports hernia had a lot to do with it.
Oh, 100%. So,
but continue, yeah. I absolutely
like Torts was saying, and I get what Torts was trying to say. He didn't want to make an excuse for Coots. And no, he was good to go. He was fine. But you could tell something was wrong with him. He wasn't you just don't go from 100 to 0 just like that. It didn't make sense. There was something wrong. And look, it's starting to become a bit worrisome because now you have the knee, then it's the back, now it's a sports hernia. Mm-hmm. And in the last 5 years, that's a lot, especially for someone at his age. And personally, I think that we cannot count on Coots to be a 1C.
No.
I absolutely
agree.
You can't. So he's a 2 or a 3. And even with Frost, I believe that this team only has 2 top 9 centers.
Yeah.
We only have 2 top 9 centers. So if he can't go anymore, if this season, he really shows that the injuries are starting to pile up and they can't do it, then we have literally 1 legit top 9 center and Luchenko coming, which is at least that's why it was a good pick. Just for that, we really need the center depth. We have
not only that, Not only that, you mentioned the fact that if he doesn't work out, you have an anchor of a contract there.
Oh
Like
yeah,
you're stuck with that for another 6 years.
yeah.
That's just a log jam. I mean, that just pretty much blocks off a path, and no one's going to take that contract.
No.
So this is huge. You need him to take a massive step up. Now it looks like, from what I'm reading, that he seems like he's playing like the old Coots. It seems like he's a guy. He's kind of finding the form that he had in the first half of the season, where we said, like, oh my God, this guy hasn't missed a beat. It looks like he's 100% from his back surgeries. He's playing like that elite two-way center that we've had for all those years. That guy who can play a fantastic 200-foot game. So, but yeah, this is big. He definitely needs to show, and I absolutely agree on the Couturier part of things. But is anyone you want to add before we move on to our next part?
No, that's pretty much it. Like that's what I've been really looking for more in like the preseason so far in the training camps, and it's like, let's see like where they are health wise. Let's see like how much bigger they got. Obviously, it's really helps. Like even Drysdale, I think Drysdale got bigger too and everything. So yeah,
I'll finish with one last guy as well that I should have probably mentioned my first time around is Morgan Frost. He's on a short-term deal. I think it's the last year of his contract. He's up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And the Flyers have the Morgan Frost tale here has always been an enigma. This is a guy who has looked good at times, who's had streaky moments that's been fantastic. And then there's been times he's been in Tortz's doghouse in the press box, just sitting there for 8 times out of 19 games. And it's like, what are we doing here? He has to completely solidify himself as a top 6 center this year. He was when the Flyers had the quote unquote #1 prospect pool, him and Farabee led the way on that. And while Morgan Frost has been an NHLer, I'm not saying he doesn't belong in the NHL, because he absolutely does, but he has not lived up to what we expected him when we first drafted him. So he's definitely someone that we need to keep an eye on. Do you want to invest in him at the end of the year? Do you want to go another bridge deal, or do you go a little long term and say, hey, listen, we feel comfortable with you now. We feel like you're part of the future. Here's a nice fat 5-6 year deal. You earn this. Or do you go, we're still unsure here. He may want to do another 2-3 year bridge deal. He may even consider looking at elsewhere and move you, to a team that feels like that might fit your game better. So Frost, I definitely think, is someone that needs to show up as well. But anyway, let's move on. Now we're officially in preseason. Tomorrow is game 1. Well, this will be coming out on Sunday, so today is game 1. But opening game against the Capitals. Then they have, I think, Montreal on Monday, which is weird. Those are 2 teams they never feel like they play in the preseason. It's usually
it's like
Rangers, Devils, or Bruins. So now we're moving on to that. And what's standing out for you in the preseason? What is something you're looking to watch for in these upcoming games?
Well, in the upcoming games, obviously, Michkov #1. Like, just to see, how he's good. Because we saw him against the rookies. Now I want to see him against actual NHLers or guys that are, on the cusp of the NHL. So how he's going to fare against them. I'm not worried from what I've seen from the kid. I'm sure he'll be fine. Then, again, when I say chemistry, I want to see chemistry again. Because, who's going to click with who? What are our lines going to be? I'm curious to see. I don't know if he's going to play tomorrow or today. But Massimo Rizzo, I'm curious.
Ooh, good pick.
Because like we've said before, with the centers, like I said, we only have 2 top 9. Could he maybe be a 3? Could he maybe take a spot, steal a spot? And I'll be honest, in the rookie game, I only watched the first one, and I didn't notice him. He of course, Johnny on the spot, he had the tying goal and everything. That was great, but other than that, I noticed him, didn't notice him. He wasn't doing anything to stand out. So he's one I'm really curious to see in the preseason game. Let's see how he does. Can he steal a center spot? Because if you could shift Lawton to the wing, which I think he's more, and that's another reason why maybe Brink might lose a spot. Because if Rizzo can steal a center spot, then you're gonna have to move Lawton to the wing.
True.
Because there's no way they're scratching one unless he really has a terrible, terrible camp.
That's Tortz's love child right now. Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's no way he ends up on the bench.
So he's one I'm curious about, and I don't know if I'm going to pronounce his name right, but Eballs. He's the.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, he's another center. He's a prospect. I don't think he'll make the team. Even Eklund, I'd be surprised, but still, I'm curious. I want to see what you got. So give us more options. Like fight for a spot, and that's pretty much what I'm looking for in the preseason games. And depending who plays, like Drysdale, can he run a power play? I'm curious to see Drysdale, Michkov, and Frost together. Like I'm curious to see how that. Yeah, I can't. Because like last season, there was a couple games on the power play where Frost and Drysdale were playing together, and they were just circling that puck around. And I'm like, oh man, if they had a third guy that could keep up with them, has that hockey sense to keep up with them, oh man, this could be scary. So I'm really curious. That's one thing is the power play, and see, because we can't finish 32nd again. Like that's going to be ridiculous. If we finish 32nd for a fourth year in a row, that's speechless.
I don't ever call for anyone to lose their job, but I have no godly idea how the fuck Rocky Thompson still has a job, because that's mind-numbing to me. I mean, he wasn't. I think he was only the power play coach the last 2 years, not all three. But regardless, I don't give that an excuse. He should, in my opinion, he should have been launched into the sun.
You can't finish 32nd like I said, last 2 years. You can't do it. He didn't improve. He didn't improve from the first year.
Not to.
Like, come on. But San Jose was 15th in the league last year.
I think they were around that.
They were high.
Good things about them.
Like they had a really good power play last year, and so you're telling me with a team deprived of that much talent, and with the players we had last year, we couldn't have a better power play than 37. No,
it's inexcusable. I will add on to that a little bit. So big preseason is going to be big. So obviously I'll piggyback off your original thought, Michkov. I want to see how he plays against actual NHLers. Some desperate guys who are going to be fighting for a roster spot, as you mentioned. Is he going? I mean, this is a kid who's going to go balls to the walls every single game. So you know he's going to bring it. It doesn't care if it's preseason, regular season, playoffs. He's going to treat every game like a Stanley Cup Finals Game 7. And that's what I love about him, is his competing motor. But I want to see how he meshes originally against actual NHL players. He had the rookie showcase. We saw him on NHL ice now. Now he's going to be in some actual game action. Now, I doubt the Capitals run the majority of they'll probably have maybe about half their actual guys out there, give or take, as will we. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Same goes with Jet Luchenko. I want to see. I hope they put him and Michkov together. I want to see how the two of them work together. They look like they had instant chemistry. Playing in that those rookie games. So I definitely want to see that. I want to see if Luchenko, and I also do want to at the same time see Luchenko play with other players, because I want to see how much of that was Michkov and how much of that was actually Luchenko as well. So I want to see him. I mean, you can throw him in a line with maybe Tippett or something like that, and then maybe even some lower tier players, and just see how he adjusts, see how he acclimates, see how he can build off his strengths with different players on the ice. So that'll definitely be something I want to watch as well. You mentioned Drysdale running the power play. I want to see the power play as a whole, because that's definitely I'm piggybacking a lot off you. But like you mentioned, you can't run 32nd again. This team, if they're going to make the playoffs or have any shot at making the playoffs, they have to be, in my opinion, the minimum of top 20 in the NHL on the power play. I'm going to give them a little bit of leverage, and I think adding a monster like Michkov is going to add. But one of the things that was actually interesting to me is the higher ups in the upper management, Torts, Shaw, Leclerc, Sharp, Briere, Jones, etc. They've all been having these constant meetings about the power play, and now even going as far as monthly meetings about that. So that's interesting. They're taking this seriously. They
have to.
They cannot have this nonsense happen again. There is, with all the talent, especially that you have at the wing, I get the question marks down the middle, But with the abundance of talent that you have at the wing and a former top 10 pick overall in Jamey Drysdale, who has shown the ability to have those flashes on puck movement, stick handling, be able to create space and room on the power play and maneuver the puck the way he does, there is absolutely zero excuse that this team should be dead lasting in or anything anywhere near that. You have more than enough talent to make this power play at least moderate, at least be respectable, and maybe the lower half of the middle of the pack. No ifs, no ands, no buts. You need to be better. But another thing I'm going to look at as well is this team, how this team is going to be working their centers. Is Couturier going to start at the 1C? Is Frost going to start at the 1C? How confident do they feel in Couturier? Is Couturier going to drop right down to the 3C right away? I want to see how they mesh up their centers because Couturier, obviously, as we mentioned, had a horrific end to the year last year. Like I said, a lot added on that sports hernia injury. But they're going to need to figure out their center position because, as you mentioned, they have maybe two guys there that you can look at and say, okay, there's your top six guys. I do not want Scott Laughton sniffing the top six again.
No.
He's your bottom six guy. I love Lots. And if you get banged up with injuries and you have to put him at 2C, that's one thing. But if Couturier and Frost are healthy, there is no reason this guy should be sniffing that again.
No, even Ryan Poehling too.
Yeah.
I like Ryan Poehling. I love his speed. I love his game. He's not a top six center.
Yeah,
like I'm sorry, he should not be your first line center.
Exactly.
So we need Coops. We need him.
Agreed. And one of the thumbs up from this team last year was how superb their penalty kill was. Guys like Poehling, Hathaway, Lawton, and Konecny were massive parts of that. Your four forwards you had on that PK last year were absolutely dynamite. Absolutely dynamite. And, although that's for you, Shaw. Brad Shaw, you are fantastic. That's the special teams coach that I'm surprised is still here and didn't get a head coaching job. I was terrified they were going to lose him at the end of the year because how magnificent.
He had a couple interviews.
Yeah. In all honesty, can you remember the last time this PK was that dangerous?
No. Mike Richards. The Mike Richards days.
Yeah. We're talking about 15 years ago. Yeah. Like their PK was more of a threat to score than the damn power play was. That's insane to think.
I think at one point they were equal or close. I think the power play had the Pelican had one less goal. I think at one point in the beginning of the season.
It was like
that was nuts. How is your penalty kill almost outscoring your power play? It doesn't make sense.
It was for about almost a third of the year. It was like that, or even sniffing the halfway point. But I'm looking forward to that. And then Rizzo was an interesting one. But my rookie I'm watching is Emil Adrane. I want to see if this guy can push for a roster spot. I don't think Zamula's spot is 100% locked. I think five out of your 6 defenseman spots are there. Eric Johnson's your 7th defenseman. We know that.
I would even say 8th.
Yeah, even 8th. Whatever you want to put him. If you even end up having 2 extra defensemen and 1 extra forward, so be it. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to run this team, you've got to see what you have all over. Is Hunter McDonald going to push? Is Emil Adrane going to push? Ronnie Adder was a guy that I used to be high on. It looks like he's kind of starting to drop a little bit in the favoritism of this team. He might not be an NHL guy. He might be your defenseman equivalent of what Wade Allison was.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, great analogy.
But Emil Adrane is a guy that interests me. I want to see what he can do here. And even at the beginning, they brought him back, and is there a path for him to compete for that 6th defenseman spot? I think that number 6 defenseman spot is for sure up in the air. Whether it's Zamula, Hunter McDonald, but who I personally want to see get is Emil Adrane. I think this kid, in my opinion, is one of their top 5 best prospects. He's probably your 2nd best defense prospect behind Oliver Blanc, who I don't think is ready yet. He's got another year or 2 before you start playing that card. The same goes with Denver Barkey, who I hope is feeling better from his mono issue, by the way. But mind you, I want to see Emil Adrane. I want to see if he's taken that step forward to really push for that defense spot, because I could see him and Ristolainen really meshing well as a good bottom pairing defense unit. That would be interesting to see. So those are my guys I'm keeping an eye on. Maybe you can, like I said, sprinkle Hunter McDonald in there a little bit too. But yeah, before we move on, do you have any other closing thoughts?
No, pretty much. Just gonna piggyback a little bit on what you said. Like, I see the defense almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
I say Zamula and Risto will probably be the third pair to start the season. But again, wouldn't be shocked if Andre just like outplays him in preseason and maybe gets that like last year, gets that 5-6 games, and then let's see what he has, you know. But yeah, no, Adard, I think he's done. He'll probably get waived out because he's not waiver exempt anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Flyers do keep AD. That, to me, that means they're probably going to keep Andre and Eric Johnson as your 7-8, or Andre will rotate with Zamula for your 6-7. So I think, and last season too, like I thought the games where I saw Jinning and Adder play at the same time, I thought Yinning was better. I remember this one game. I don't know if you remember, but I can't remember if it was Chicago or if it was Ottawa. It was one of those teams, and the Flyers were kind of like on their heels a little bit, and Yinning just blew somebody up. He just blew somebody up, and it was like, bam, like something switched on the Flyers. We tied the game, and I think we won in overtime. And like
that was Ottawa. I think I remember that game.
I remember red. I just remember the color red in my head. But
what was it? Maybe it was Montreal, actually. Is that the game? No, that was.
No, it wasn't Montreal because we won that game.
It was Ottawa. I think you're right.
Yeah. But I if I'm not mistaken, he still has waivers. He could still go down, so he's still exempt. So I don't think he's gonna make the team. He'll probably be like the first call up if Andre is already on the team.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's I think Adder. Unfortunately, I had high hopes for Adder too. Like I really thought he'd be better, but it just looks like it's just not panning out. And look, if he could have an opportunity somewhere else, like if they put him on waivers and somebody does claim him, you know, better for him.
Yeah.
I say.
Yeah, I'll add this. If when the Flyers do make those final 23-man roster decisions, I would personally prefer them probably go 14 forwards, 7 defensemen. Mainly just because I don't want to keep 2 defensemen in the press box. I would rather those guys be getting high-end minutes in the AHL than just rotating them. If it ends up being Adard, or I'm not Adard, I'm sorry. If it ends up being Adrane, I want him to be the number 6 guy constantly, and then maybe you consider maybe dropping Zamula down to the AHL temporarily in case an injury happens. That's the only thing that I really is. I think Zamula has a 2-way contract, if I remember correctly, so I think he can go down. But don't quote me.
I don't think he's waiver exempt. I don't think he's waiver exempt. I think he would have to go through waivers.
And they may have to go that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if it was up to me, I would probably prefer to go 14-7. But if that is the case, they may have to go 13-8. It would just suck to have 2 defensemen sit in the press box than having one of these guys run higher end minutes in the AHL possibly. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Final topic of the day. Who's this guy that needs to make an impression this year? So this is a big year for this team. This team, in my opinion, definitely has a chance to make playoffs. They took a significant step forward this year. I think the range is very wide. I think they could end as low as 7th or 8th in their division if the goaltending is bad and, the power play is rough again and injuries again pile up. Or they could be as high as maybe 3rd in the division and maybe end up competing for a 3rd spot in the Metro or compete for a wild card or, there's a lot. This is going to be an interesting year. So my question to you is this. Which players are most approved this year and why?
Well, I think the players that have the most to prove, one would have to be the players that are coming off of injuries like Drysdale and Coots, like we said before. We need to know what you are. With Coots, we need to know what you are. Can you stay healthy? Are you able to at least be a top 6 forward? Or are we penciling you in as a 3C for like the rest of this contract? We need to know what you are. Drysdale, now that you're 100% healthy, let's see what you could do. Can you take that next step? Can you run the power play efficiently? Can you start putting up some points and see how things are gonna go? And for me, also Farabee. We need to see Farabee play a full season. Because if you think about it, Farabee's development, I find it has been a little screwed up. Because if you think about it, with the COVID year, then the year that was shut down with COVID, then you had the year that was the shortened COVID season. Then he finally gets the camp. He's training. he has the neck surgery. So he misses off training camp. He doesn't do any off season. He plays a full 82, but we saw it. He wasn't healthy. Now this year, then last season, he finally has an off season to prepare, to get into condition. The first 50 games, he was unbelievable. The first 50 games, Farabee was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But then it's like he hit a wall and he disappeared. His numbers went into the toilet. So now I want to see, can you be healthy and pull a full 82? And that's one guy that's really, because he's important. He's important to this team because having a guy like him and be like, he's going to play in your third line is a luxury. And if he can produce, like a lot of people say, like teams that win the cup have second line players on their third lines, have first line players on their second lines. That's how you win a cup. You need depth. So we need to know what Farabee is, or at the very least, if you want to trade for a center later, and if he's going to be like a chip to trade for a center, teams need to see that he could play a full season and what he is. Because at the end of the day, you need to trade quality for quality. You're not going to get a top center prospect or a top center for a third or fourth line player. So I think he's got a lot to prove this season.
Very good points. I honestly agree with all that. The injury guys that are dealing with what they went through, what are you going to actually be? Obviously, Farabee is big. They got a big log jam at the left wing spot. So is he going to be that top six guy? Is he going to be more of a middle six guy? Is he a potential trade candidate? That's even been mentioned. And I love Farabee, in all honesty. I hope this kid continues to play great. Funny story, when I went down to Tampa, I met his father. Awesome dude. I had a conversation with him for about a good 5 minutes. But I'm hoping Farabee the best this year. I hope he can continue to take another step. Beezer's a big part of this team. Wow. Me personally, so here's the three guys I'm going to go with. Number one is Samuel Ersson. That's their goaltending is going to be just as big as the power play when it comes to make or break. The last third of the year, the goaltending fell off a cliff. And I'm not blaming Samuel Ersson. No. Obviously, the situation with he was a rookie. He was expected to play 1B minutes, maybe 40% of the games. And then what happened with Carter Hart, he got thrown into a really tough situation where he went from playing 40% of the games to roughly playing over 80%. Mm-hmm. And you're a rookie still. You're not used to the NHL grind. And he just wore the hell down by early March when this team went on their free fall. He was not the Samuel Ersson that we saw in that first half of the year when he was playing pretty damn good. Like, he had that rough 4-game stretch to start the year, but after that, he had like almost .930 save percentage for about a 2-month span. It was absolutely magnificent. In my opinion, there was a point that you could have even mentioned him in Calder conversations. He wasn't going to win because Connor Bedard existed, but he was at least someone that you could talk about a little bit. But now he's got a chance to prepare. He knows what he went through. He now knows that it's him and Fedotov. He's going to be probably, in my opinion, I'd like to see him get about 60% of the starts. I want them to do what they did last year, kind of similar to with him and Hart before Hart went the way of the dodo. But Fedotov kind of take that Ersson role and Ersson take the Carter Hart role, where he ends up getting roughly 60%. I want this to be a 1A, 1B, because I don't know if either one of these goalies are truly the next guy. I mean, and that's kind of what stinks about the whole Alexei Kolosov issue, that you lose one of your goaltender prospects. Now, mind you, the Flyers' goaltending pool is friggin' loaded, so it might not be as damaging as we first thought with Savargin and Bjornstrom, but we'll see. Yeah, Ersson and Fedotov are going to be big pieces, but Ersson more because we saw what he could have been last year before the wheels kind of fell off the track. Number two is Sean Couturier. So obviously he went through his back injuries. He had the sports hernia. He's had a multitude of injuries ever since he signed that massive extension. They need to know, as you mentioned, what he is. Is he going to be the guy that you can rely on night in and night out to play top 6 minutes? Are you going to get that guy who played an excellent 200-foot game pre-back surgeries in the first half of the season? Or are you going to get the shell of the guy who ended up getting healthy scratch just weeks after you gave him the captaincy role? Now, I love Coots. think he's a leader in that locker room. I want him to lead by example. And I feel pretty good that maybe you won't get the first half, Coots, but you'll get something close to that where he ends up playing a role where you feel confident in what you have in top 6 minutes from him. But I just want him to be able to produce at a high 200-foot game and get you about 50, 55 points. Because he brought absolutely nothing offensively in the second half of the year. He
Even
couldn't
defensively.
score. He wasn't really. I mean, his playmaking abilities was pretty much gone. He looked slow. He looked like a slug out there, to put it in perspective. So it's going to be big to see what Sean Couturier does. And then Travis Konechny, you just got that massive payday. I got a follower on Twitter, Suitable Elias, who calls him as Mr. October. And I will say this, Konechny kind of weaned off at the end of the year. Now, some of that may have had to do with the oblique injury that he dealt with. I don't think he was ever 100% when he came back. But I think Travis Konechny can put up close to a point per game pace. And he was showing that. He looked like he was on close to a 40-goal pace last year before he ended up getting injured. In the second half of the year, he just wasn't what he was. Still had a 33-goal year. It was still pretty damn good. Second straight year, he had over 30 goals. But, again, you want to see more for a guy you're paying almost $9 million for starting in 2025-26. You essentially have this guy for the next 9 years under contract.
Yep.
You need him to take another step. He cannot – that can't be his ceiling. I need Travis Konechny to be an 80-plus point guy, personally. If you're going to live up to that contract, I need a guy who's going to get me 35, 40 goals and 40 to 45 assists constantly. If you get me that in top 6 minutes, you deserve the contract. You earned it. I don't expect him to end up playing to that level the entirety of the contract. Don't get me wrong. By year 5, 6, the free fall could begin. And I always compared Travis Konechny to our version of Brad Marchand. He's a pest. He plays a game where he agitates everyone, but he plays a game at a high skill pace where he can score constantly. He gets in the greasy areas, and he plays a lot more physically than his size indicates. Now, the issue with that is that could play a wear and tear on your body quicker than most guys. And by age 32, 33, you could be pretty much burnt toast. I'm hoping you don't see that out of Konechny. I'm hoping he ends up playing what Brad Marchand is and ends up waiting until about age 35, 36 before the wheels start really falling off. But history shows that may not necessarily be the case. This is a big thing with him. I don't know if you're going to see it this year, but this year I want to see him take another step. I don't want 32, 33 goals to be the ceiling for him. I want to see him sniff 36, 37 goals. One of my bold predictions is I said Owen Tippett would be close to that. I think this is a real chance that this team could have 2 guys sniffing 40 goals this year.
Very possible, yeah.
They're going to have to score their way to win games because I do worry about this team's goaltending. But Konechny is going to have to take another step. And one other thing you can mention about him, he's had a little bit of durability issues. He had the oblique last year. I think, what was it when he got hurt against Calgary 2 years ago? What, did he have a wrist injury, I think?
Finger?
It was
something with the hand. Something with the hand.
But he ended up missing, I think, 3 weeks then, too. He hasn't played a full 82-game season. So it's never anything severe where he misses 2-3 months.
That's the thing.
It's something where you end up looking, it's like, crap, we're not going to get 82 games out of him. We may only get 68 or 70 games from him, which missing almost a month with one of your best players is big. You need it. I want to see if Konechny can play something close to an 82-game season. I need the durability out of him now. So, yeah, for sure, those are my main 3 guys are Urson, Couturier, and Konechny. Obviously, Michkov, but that would be a cop-out easy answer to say.
Yeah, it's like, every question could have been answered Michkov.
Exactly. You could be like, so which player are you most excited? Michkov. Who is the big stand at Michkov? Okay, we can't get the easy answers.
That's it. No.
But so those are my. Before we sign off on the night, do you have anything else to add?
No, just pretty much just repeating what you said there. Like with TK, like luckily, he hasn't had anything serious so far. That's the thing. It's so far, and like, look, hockey players always miss time. Well, there's a game here, a game there, 2 games here. But yeah, like I expect him this year too. He has to hover around that point per game. He's shown he could do it, and now he got the contract. Now let's see if you could do it. So yeah, like I said, with Kuts and everything, and you're spot on, man. I think and Fedotov too. Fedotov has to prove it, and that's why it really sucks that Kolosov didn't come over, because. Like, personally, I think, like, unless they made some kind of guarantee to Fedotov saying, like, no, look, buddy, you're going to be in the NHL for sure. Like, if Kolosov would have come to camp and, like, outplayed Fedotov, like, significantly, like, I don't think Torts especially would have been like, no, like, send this guy to the minors. Like, either they would have carried 3 goalies or they would have maybe waived Fedotov. Who knows, And because goaltending is the most important position on your team almost.
Yeah.
And Urson, hopefully he could, like, his workload will be limited this year. If you could do like a 45 split, like a either 50-50, 41-41, or like a 50-32, like that would be great. Right? Then we'll see. And who knows? Maybe it'll be Fedotov that gets the most games. Because maybe, like, so far I've seen some highlights from the scrimmages. I'm like, he's looking good.
Yeah.
Like, he's big. He's stopping the pucks, and so who knows? But it's going to be a major key to the season. Goaltending is going to be the major key to the season. That's what it is.
And I'm going to fall on that too. Goaltending is going to be huge. Whether it's Fedotov, whether it's Urson, their goaltending is going to have to be big this year, simply put. But that's going to do it for this episode. Eric, a.k.a. Philabuter, it was awesome having you on.
That was a pleasure, man.
I don't think this will be the last time we have you on. I think you were a treasure. It was great having you on, definitely. Give him a follow, everyone, too, at Philabuter10. His @ is in the comment section below. I'm pointing my finger the wrong way. Right there. Right there. But, yeah, with all that being said, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Flyera Gonna Flyera. Expect this posted on Sunday. And with all that being said, we hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your night. And ladies and gentlemen, as always, let's go Flyers.
All right.